Let's got the recording started now. Yeah, it's not live. Part out.
No problem.
All right, welcome everybody. It is Bulldog here with Bulldog Unchained. We've got a brand new channel covering several of the virtuals tokens, and we have our first interview here with Joseph Thomas. Thank you for joining us, Joseph of the Betya.ai, the Betya token, which is launching right now. So, Joseph, I guess you wanted to introduce the project. Tell us what you've got here.
Sure. First of all, thanks for having us on. I appreciate your time. I know it was very last minute, so it's really good to speak with you and your listeners. Yeah, I'm Joseph, the CEO and founder of Betya.ai. Been in crypto since 2011. Set up the Irish Bitcoin Foundation 2012, so kind of like, I wouldn't even say an OG at this stage, more like a dinosaur, but absolutely love crypto. So first company is a company called ATech, where we help governments deliver federal aid. Doesn't have a token, it's more of a stable coin play, but we've been around about 10 years there. So we're backed by a couple of L1s, some investors in Silicon Valley, Singapore government. So it's going pretty well. But what we decided to do with Betya.ai is we really wanted to merge cryptocurrency with AI agents. And why we wanted to build this and why we've been designing it now for the last couple of weeks and building it is we see there's a lot of fans, right? Sports fans. And then you have a lot of people doing prediction markets, but we don't see anywhere there's an intersection of a sports fan being able to see when their team wins, get involved with their, what community they're in, whatever sport it may be. And we're very lucky to have an introduction to a couple of NFL players. And we kind of told them our idea what we're building. They're like, yeah, this is great. We get 80,000 people every weekend at a game. Wouldn't it be great if they could bet on the outcome? So if their team's winning, the players are winning, why aren't the fans winning? Right? The fans are spending a lot of money. So we're really trying to merge, I guess, the culture of being a fan and making it super, super easy for a user, a fan, to put on a prediction if their team's going to win or not. So I think the state that and where AI agents are now is making that a lot easier. So our kind of premise is, how can we make it so simple that a fan can put on a bet, a prediction, a future result of a game within 2 buttons. So using natural language, they speak to their agent, the agent pulls back the odds, and the user can execute on that prediction. And we want to make it easy for people to stay within crypto, so the payouts can be in USDC, right? So they can put them into a DeFi vault, they can rebet, and if they potentially use our token, they get cheaper trading fees and so on. So that's kind of the premise of what we want to do. How can we use these amazing technologies such as crypto and AI, especially AI agents, but bring it for real world application where people can do it super simply, like they're sending a WhatsApp message, like they're chatting with ChatGPT. They can sit back, watch the game, be immersed in the match as a fan, and say, hey, listen, I won $50 on that. Great. What's next? Right. So this is the whole idea, that the agent is giving the person back their time, being a fan, enjoying it, but also getting the upside if their team wins. Or if the team loses, they can, trade against them, of course. But that's an individual, I guess, decision. But
So whenever somebody places these bets, is it betting on external sports books? Is it an internal? Is it peer to peer? Who are they betting with?
yeah, so it's a really good point. So we really don't want to be a sports book ourselves, right? Because I think that carries, I wouldn't say carries too much risk, but I think it's a heavy lift starting off. We want to move as quick as possible. So essentially what we're doing, we're looking at Web 2 and Web 3, I guess, API feeds in, right? So can the agent get the best odds for that fan at that moment in time, in that real time, right? So what we're doing and what we're designing right now, and what our CTO and our chief product engineer are actually playing around with that. They're testing it this week. If we pull in certain odds, whether it be, could it be from something like a Chainlink Oracle? Could it be from potentially Polymarket? Or are we going to pull it from a Web 2 betting platform that can give us odds quicker? And the answer is we don't fully know yet, because that's what we're testing out right now. But we don't want to be the sportsbook. We just want to give the odds to the user. The user can put the trade on or not, essentially. And we got feedback from about 600 people actually while we were designing this, working closely with Super Bowl winner Lee Woodall, who played for the San Francisco 49ers back in the 90s. So he's been fantastic at opening doors for us. And we've been really designing and trying to build this wallet from based on all user feedback straight up. So that's what we've been doing the last, I guess, 6 weeks now.
So when it integrates with the Web 2, is the plan that will somebody have to already have an account with those Web 2 books, or is there like an in between?
Yeah, so we kind of look at it as a Web 2.5, right? So if you like, there's no point coming to our wallet and then having to leave the wallet to set up an account or somewhere else, right? But if you have an account there and you can bring it in, fantastic. But if not, if you want to stay pure, I guess, crypto or decentralized, you know, and one thing we're looking at is we want to give Web 2 odds or Web 3 odds, right? So we want to have that decision up to the user, or do they want to call both odds in? So I'm not a fan of people being pulled into the product and having to leave the product to go do something else, right? This is a lot of feedback we got, especially around like getting a non-technical or non-crypto user trying to set up a MetaMask wallet. It's like, it's difficult, right? So you've already forgotten them of the initial thing that you're trying to do. They're already gone. They're gone somewhere else. And they're like, okay, what's this? Is this your wallet? Like, no, like, okay, what's this 24-word password thing like? So we're very, very, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but like, we're very cautious of the user experience. So our chief product engineer, he worked with me in my first company. He's been focusing on this the last few weeks now. And we're going to roll out the first beta. We have a wait list of 10,000 users, which is pretty exciting, starting off in Philadelphia. Truly Lee Woodall from the NFL. So we're really doing this as a product first attack, I guess, on the actual product, on the wallet, what we're trying to design.
Yeah, I absolutely agree about how even just a simple wallet can be a barrier for people. I think a lot of people in Web3 don't realize how difficult it is, how confusing just a simple wallet. Because they've been exposed to it for so long. It's something that's somebody's not used to. So is this, talk about the user making the bets, would the AI help in finding bets at all? Like like even in Web 2 platforms that are designed to try like find certain odds or arbitrage bets, or is it doing anything like that, or is it more about the user experience than?
For us, it's user experience, because we know like there are opportunities potentially in the future to get arbitrage between different API calls, if you want to look at it like that. I don't think I think you get away with that in Web 2 type of solutions. I don't think you get away with that in Web 3, not now anyway, right? So for us, we'd rather be high volume of users, high volume of transactions than trying to skim off a transaction fee between the users. Like, that's not really interesting to us. We don't really care. That's a bit boring. Like, you know what I mean? It's a business model. It's a revenue, but I think there's better ways to do things. So I think the agent, so like when the user goes in, they're going to see what kind of a level. We're trying to understand what type of risk they are comfortable with. So are they a beginner? Are they a sports fanatic? Or are they complete vegan, right? So helping the user build up that profile for the agent built on the risk tolerance, I think is quite important, right? So what sports do you like? What teams do you like? How often do your teams play? Twice a week? Well, okay, put $100 across 2 bets for me automatically when my team plays 3 hours before the game, right? So these are the type of different scenarios that we're designing, we're building out. So the agent will be very simply, will pull back the odds, say if you put down $20, this is your returns. If you put down $100, this is what you get if your team wins, for example, right? So trying to encapsulate that fan experience, but bringing it into the winning experience of, you know, how can I make money a couple of times a week if my team wins, right? So that's what we're trying to do, where the agent will actually have a recollection or a memory of the commands or the inputs that you give to help them build that profile, that risk tolerance that you want the agent to execute on. So I think right now, like, it's really important, consumer to agent is how revenues are going to be made essentially here. But I think in the future it's going to be agent to agent, where agents can be actually trading and betting against fans off a different team. I think something that we're really excited about building is how can we like socialize small trades between friends, right? So I'm in a Telegram group with two friends. One of them supports Man United and one supports Liverpool. So Man United are pretty crap right now. Liverpool champions in England. But they've nowhere to put bets on, right? They have to go to a different sports platform to put in accumulators and things like this, which is really difficult. So when I see these guys chatting back and forth, I just think they're losing the opportunity here where they could actually say, hey, I'm going to share a link, put your trade on, get your rating to trade against mine, done. And we see it at the end of the game. So I think something like that is incredibly fun and exciting. So that's kind of what we're looking for, but I don't think we're at that stage yet. I don't think we'll be at that stage for 6 months. I'm not talking about the industry, I'm talking about us personally. So I think the agent-to-agent play is incredibly exciting. Using MCP, and obviously if we're using things within virtuals, ACP within virtuals. So yeah, I think that's something that is on our product roadmap, but we have to get the MVP out first. We're getting that out in August before NFL season kicks off. Like, it's not an NFL play, but it's kind of our focus for the moment before we like can go down any other sports.
Oh yeah, especially with that partnership, you gotta get the NFL ties in there.
Well, yeah, we're just looking. It's like it's not NFL specific, so we're not dealing with them directly, but dealing with Lee Woodall, he was president of the NFL, the chapter for Philadelphia. He's pretty amazing. So he's like giving us all these inputs and feedbacks of, if you want to scale it, you do this. You want to get an MVP, you just do this. So having that kind of those insights, plus we're speaking with two NFL teams. We're speaking with 6 soccer teams here in Europe. We would have loved to be able to announce all these things before the agent sale and virtuals. We obviously can't. So, but I think it'll be really exciting when we can.
Awesome. And you, at one point you mentioned revenue in there. So how's the company make money for the token holders, whatever the case? Where is that a percent of bets, or how does this come into play?
Yeah, so the way we're looking at it is we're taking a 1.5% transaction fee on trades put on and trades won, right? So we make money kind of either way. If a person uses the trade, puts our token on to execute the trade, they'll trade at a discount, so they got like 1% transaction fee trade, right? So it's kind of creating some utility for users to actually hold their token or to use our token. And then we're still working on the mechanics of how we want to do a token buyback or a burn every quarter. We might do it monthly, we might do it quarterly, and I think that'll only become clear after we go live and see what the revenues are like in the first month, for 6 weeks. So I'm a big fan of metrics of, you measure what you manage, and that's what we did with our first company. So I think that's the main thing will be the transaction fee. I think in the future we can even have lower fees if we have the agents trading with each other, right? So that's where we really, really want to go. So I think, if I put on a Betya token holder, I'd like to see, okay, how these guys make revenue? How does this go back into the community? How does this go back into the first holders or buyers of this token? So I think that's what we want to do. Use our revenues to buy back our token, and then do a burn mechanism. But we haven't finalized on how we will execute that just yet.
Okay. And so as far as, I guess you kind of answered my next question. I was going to talk about what what utility for the token is. You mentioned getting discounts, you get to place the bets. Is there any other utility plans, or what is kind of covered there?
Yeah, so I think they'd be kind of the main things, but obviously we want to have so for example, if we want to go onto a different chain, right? Or if we want to go across multi-chains, we'd love to put that to the community to vote. So token holders can actually do snapshots, who votes on this, what change should we want to next, for an example, right? So governance, I think, is going to be massively important. And especially, I think, launching on virtuals, it's such an open an easy launch. Like the FDV is quite small for when the agent succeeds, or even if it doesn't succeed, like it's still quite a small price. So I think there's massive upside for early investors or people who buy in. So I think people who hold will get rewarded, in my opinion. But we want to do things that they have governance rights for voting. We could do special NFT rewards. We have to see how that works. And like, I think NFTs is an overused word because they're crap and they have no utility. And like, that's just my opinion. And I think everybody's waiting the last 4 or 5 years for them to come back. I'd be more interested in things like having an NFT as a soul-bound token that actually builds a reputation for your agent, right? So that to me is a much more interesting thing that we could do. So if you're a token holder and you're staking, for example, you get your agent that has a high reputation, has better voting rights in the governance of things. So I think we're looking at doing things slightly differently, because I don't want to come in here and say we're going to do everything that everybody else has done, because it's just boring and a lot of it hasn't worked, in my opinion, right? For being honest. So
That's fair.
these are things that excite us. Like we're going to put it out to the community and see if they agree. And if they don't, we're like, oh, we got that totally wrong, which is fine.
Yeah, I really like the idea of kind of gamifying it a little bit and having that that reputation. With NFTs, sometimes you mentioned kind of a soul-bound NFT where they don't necessarily have to be tradable. They don't have to be something that you can sell, but having it being able to integrate with other things, show off on other still utilities with it. Beyond the monetary value, even though I know a lot of people are here for the money, but there can be uses even.
Yeah, and I completely agree. Just like when I think of NFTs, I think of a few years ago when things were just crazy. But I don't think that's going to work anymore, personally. Like, I don't think people find that any interesting. But if you have your agent becomes its own NFT, for example, but it's based on how many successful trades it's done, right? So you could essentially, like you said, that you could gamify the top performing agents over different sports and so on. You could have like agents leagues, for example, right? You're going to bet on this agent this week or this agent because they've got X amount of calls right over the last number of games, right? So I think there's so many cool things that we can do that all you need to do is to look at that reputation of the agent's NFT, for example. It's not being sold, has no monetary value, but it's something that's linked, like the soul-bound kind of idea that was mentioned years ago by Vitalik, but linking that to an agent, I think is like, it makes a lot of sense to us.
Oh, yeah, that makes me exciting just thinking about that and being able to show off your profile, brag about who's got the better
like,
agent and all that.
Yeah, like things like if the agent gets that trade right, you put on a bet because you follow the agent, you can get discounted transaction fees and things like this, right? So there's just lots of cool things that you can gamify. I wouldn't say socialify way, but like if it's communication about communities, there's lots of really cool things that can happen here.
So as far as I guess more a little bit as far as funding, obviously launching the token on virtuals gets you some funding. How much funding does the project have? What type of runway is the project looking at for as far as how long you have to develop?
Yeah, sure. So kind of used to the whole VC and investment process. So with my first company, A-Tech, we got investment from Algorand, Avalanche, Jason Colacanis, Techstars. So we went through the whole VC process, which is pretty amazing because it kind of gave us a lot of knowledge and information. But we never had a token there. So releasing Betya now kind of as a token first to the community is what really excites me. So we do have some small investment coming in that's giving us 18 months runway. It's not a lot. Didn't take much in because I don't think we need to be brutally honest, right? So what was more important to us, I think, is the distribution channels that we've already built up. Bring this to the community, get people excited about it, and hopefully people will see in the next few weeks kind of our partners, our roadmaps, what we're rolling out. So it's exciting. I'd rather we do a bigger raise after we do the virtuals launch, even if it's on the equity side, for example, because I think that'll flow into the token. So early buyers or early holders of the Betya token should see some significant upside. But again, that's our opinion, so we're obviously completely biased on this. But
Oh yeah, so it's certainly understandable. These they're all excited. Um,
yeah, they're fun.
and then I saw you mentioned the roadmap. I saw on the roadmap there were I saw like some creator plans, which excited me a little bit. What type of things do you have planned there, and just marketing in general? What marketing project?
Yeah, so I think like we hopefully have a big announcement coming out this weekend. And it was all about timing. So one of the questions we had was like, do we wait till Thursday or Friday to do the agent sale and virtuals, or do we go ahead with it today and make the announcement later? So like, if like we're successful in a fully subscribed agent sale and sale and virtuals, I think this announcement is going to be absolutely pretty cool, right? So, and then working say with Lee Woodall, we can do with some other announcements. We're speaking with some other NFL players, some other NFL teams, but we can't announce those things yet, obviously, right? So, plus we want to have the product in people's hands before we can actually, because I think making announcements of announcements with no product is like,
That's the Web3 way.
yeah, exactly, right. I always say our first metric is revenue, and our second metric is users, not TVLs or this and that and things like this. And I know they're all super important, but I think on the marketing, our marketing is going to be led by our distribution channels, which is quite exciting. So we put a lot of focus on working with those partners, getting things ready, focusing on the product that they can show their followers, their fans, their users. That's what kind of gets us really excited. So I think our marketing is actually going to be led by product, where we get product out into people's hands. In terms of the more technical stuff, we're really excited about two things. One is A2A commerce. So agent-to-agent payments, we think is going to be absolutely massive. And that's going to be a construct, I think, of users giving commands to their agent, just through natural language within the wallet, saying, my team plays twice a week. So if we're speaking about the English Premiership, if my team plays twice a week on Wednesdays and Saturdays, put on bets, maximum $50, and execute on the percentage of them winning or losing, right? So I think that's going to be quite cool. But when agents can start doing those things against other agents in the ecosystem, that's what we're most excited about. But I don't think the industry's there for at least 6 months on that, which suits us fine in terms of our product roadmap. And then again, there'll be other decisions about what other chains we want to go on. So, for example, launching on the Genesis Launchpad and virtuals is based, right? But obviously, we're working super closely with the guys at Solana Foundation, who have been amazingly supportive. But we'll put that to the community. What do you think? Where do you think we should go? Where do you think we should build next? So, I think it'll be a mixture of decisions that we need to make and decisions that we can actually open up to the community who will kind of give us feedback and guide us on what we should do next.
Yeah, and I completely agree on that agent to agent stuff. We're starting to see, even in Web2 sports books, more of the peer to peer marketplaces are starting to rise up a little bit, because such a lower fee essentially. Sports books are taking those huge odd differences. The fees are insane. Like you mentioned, 1.5% transaction fee. That's nothing compared to what a traditional sports book takes. So if you can take those to the next level, where peer to peer guy agents cutting out a process, I definitely agree. There's a ton of potential.
Yeah, and this kind of goes back to the first point that you raised. Like, if we can do that, we don't, like I said, we don't want to be a sports book, because that carries risk on both sides if you get massive trades go against you, right? So we're just kind of pulling the odds and serving the odds up. User, I'll execute this or I won't. But even before that, this is going back to it's not just a sports fan. It's not just a trader. It's a sports fan who has more tacit knowledge about their team and their statistics and things like this, that we're serving up all this information super simply into a 2-click process, where I'll execute on this trade or this bet because I think my team will do this, for example, right? So that can be a much quicker and cheaper way for the user, but it's also a fan experience, right? So kind of you had a flywheel of what's the fan experience. Why should a fan at a game who's spending hundreds of dollars on tickets and food not get any upside of making $50, $60 on a bet if they know their team is going to win, or if they feel good about it? So that's kind of how we viewed it. So it's really taking that fan experience like a POAP, like a proof of attendance protocol, but your agent can check you in for an event, whether it be at home or whether it be physical, and then says, okay, we know you're watching this for the next 90 minutes if it's a soccer game. I don't know how many hours if it's American football, it goes on longer, but like, okay, what's the trade here? If I put down $50, what are my odds? What are my returns? Okay, boom. And another thing there, we're doing the payouts in USDC because if you have it in fiat, you still need to convert. So having it in USDC or USDT, whatever, you're keeping crypto and you're keeping the person in crypto, and the crypto stays in the person's wallet, right? So that's how we think that kind of gives that, I wouldn't say virality, but that little moment where a person doesn't need to, do I need to sign for this exchange or and so on, right? So we've already done integrations with Radium, with Jupiter. Yeah, no, that's already built.
Awesome. This all sounds amazing. That I think that was about all the questions that I had. Everything's kind of last second here, so I didn't get to do a whole bunch of too deep of a dive or anything too critical. But is
anything that's more technical, deeper, I'll bring in my tech guys because I'm out at that stage. I'll tap out at that stage.
Is there anything else that you feel like you wanted to share?
There is one or two things, but I don't think we can say until possibly Friday.
Okay.
I don't know. We're just super excited to be building here. And I love the fact this is more of a community ICO type sale that is open to absolutely anybody. That's what I'm really excited about.
Right, so we got a little bit of a tease there. You guys will have to check back at the end of the week and see what they're building.
Yeah, this is it. Yeah, awesome.
So I appreciate you so much for taking the time to come on, and good luck with the launch. I hope everything goes well.
Awesome. Appreciate the opportunity, and thanks for your time.